Hey guys, welcome to the Encrypted Angels channel, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about 5 tips on how to improve the communication with your alters. We are a DID system, which stands for Dissociative Identity Disorder, and that is what our channel is about. Welcome back, you guys. I wanted to talk about this because being able to develop communication with your others internally, if you are a DID system, can go a really long ways in helping to cope with your DID in so many different ways. And I hope I have a little bit of something for everyone, whether this is something you're not able to do at all yet with your alters, being able to communicate, or whether you can communicate with them, but you're looking at ways to perhaps improve that. So I hope I have something, a little something for everybody here. Alright, so let's get into it. The first thing I wanted to mention is acceptance. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because your others are going to know if you really are in a place where you can accept, and I mean you as in the host, if I'm talking to the host, or the host in your system if you're not. For the host to be able to truly accept being a DID system, if they are still denying it, if they're in denial, which is also very, very common. So I just want to give that a brief mention. That is very common to maybe perhaps get a diagnosis of being DID if you are diagnosed, or even somebody coming up and telling you that they're seeing changes that don't make sense. If the host is not able to come to acceptance, it's going to delay the ability for that internal communication to happen. I sometimes almost describe it like a veil or a door opening up. It almost feels like a heavy thickness is slowly being removed and getting thinner and thinner and thinner. Or at least that's what it felt like for us to be able to develop that communication with each other, for those extreme dissociative walls to kind of get thinned down. And I think that's an ongoing process, is to try to thin out those walls as best as possible, so that way we don't lose as much time, so we can communicate with each other, so we can have co-consciousness with one another. So 2 and 3 kind of came simultaneously, so I had a hard time of where to put which one. So number 2, I put meditation. Now I know, not everybody can meditate. Not everybody's. I've heard a lot, well, I'm not good at meditation, Dax, I can't sit there and just do nothing or whatever, or my mind goes a million miles a minute, there's no way I can calm my mind. There are, I've said this before in a few of my videos, I don't talk a whole lot about the meditation stuff, but maybe I should talk more about it. We as a system have worked with meditation for a long time, as well as mindfulness. So the third one for us is journaling. And journaling went a long ways because we could write to each other. Once we knew that we were a system, one of the things that the host did was to create a journal that we could all write in, and she would write down questions. She wrote down a different question on each page. She bought a small spiral notebook, and she wrote down a different question on each page, and she numbered it like 1 through 20 or something along the line, downward. And so if you answered on line 1 on the first page, like, what is your name? And say on line 1, I answered Dax. And then on the next page it says, oh, what age do you identify as? And right now I would say, early 20s, like early to mid 20s. And then say on the third line, what is one of your favorite hobbies? And I would write down one of my favorite hobbies on line 1. So whatever line I answered on, I could consistently answer on that same line throughout the notebook with the questions. And that was one way that we got to know each other, and that also sparked open writing to each other in journals, so we could leave notes to each other and whatnot. And at first this really freaked Diva out. So that was our host back then, that was her name back then. So it really did freak Diva out. And she really thought that she was ready, and this kind of circles back to acceptance. She really thought that she was ready to develop communication with us, but then when she saw proof of us existing, it would shock her and even sometimes upset her like almost on the brink of re-traumatizing her, just knowing that we existed. And so if that's something that you go through, or if that is something that you've experienced, this is something that we went through as well. We've been through those steps and have been there, and now we are on the other side of that. And so there is a process here. So I wanted to go back over a couple of points with meditation before I move on. Is it helps quiet down all of those thought processes that are not helpful, and to help me focus in on the thoughts that I do want to hold on to, that do count, the thoughts such as the ideas that I have or the content that I want to bring to you guys. Those thoughts I want to hold on to and clarify and write down and develop. Other thoughts that maybe attack my self-worth, those I consider like taking out the trash. Now, you can have certain exercises that you do, or goals, or mindfulness exercises. And one of the earliest exercises that we did to help improve the communication was during a quiet time part of the day, where the phone wasn't ringing, the kids were asleep. The host back then would relax, do some breathing exercises, and just ask in the mind, it's like using the mind's voice, is there anybody that would like to step forward and talk with me? And she did this for a long time. It was almost like every single night for about 6 months, and this included journaling and writing, working with a therapist. She didn't know how to contact us or talk to us. Like sometimes she would hear us, but it was like on accident. Like we would be yelling or really upset. Like if I was really upset by something that I saw happening on the outside, and I was outraged and I was yelling about it, sometimes she would hear that part of it, but she could never, it was always like on accident she would hear us, never on purpose. And so she wanted to be able to hear us on purpose, and we wanted to be able to communicate with her too on purpose, but we couldn't, not until she was ready. And so now you can kind of see where all of these things are interlinked with acceptance, meditation, or at least giving yourself space and time, that quiet space and time to open up to your ulcers. The fourth one is about Post-it notes. So we would leave Post-it notes for each other on walls, on the refrigerator, on the mirror, in the bathroom, in day planners, in everything. So we would leave Post-it notes for each other. So, and whether you use Post-it notes, whether you use, maybe I've heard of some people using like a cork board and they leave messages for each other on a cork board, or they'll have a marker board where they can leave each other messages. There's a lot of different ways that a person can come up with leaving messages for each other, for your ulcers on the outside. A lot of fun, creative ways. Kitchen magnets, so like the alphabet kitchen magnets, I've heard of those being used. Just all kinds of things so are being used. Another thing that one of my others mentioned in a previous video, Mia, she mentioned the washable crayons, or markers for that matter, that you can leave each other, write each other messages on the walls or cabinets or refrigerator, whatever you want, floors, tables, whatever, hard surface basically, and it washes right off with just like a damp washcloth or paper towel. It will come right off. So yeah, so all kinds of different fun ideas of ways you can leave messages for each other, whichever way works for you and yours. And let's see, if you like what you are hearing so far, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also share this video with others who you may think might like this or benefit from this as well. The fifth one, my fifth tip, is creating talking devices inside. What do I mean by that? I mean creating cell phones inside, creating walkie-talkies inside, creating intercoms inside, anything that you can think of. The imagination is really the limit on creating devices that you can use inside to speak with your alters. So we got to a point where we could see each other inside, but even if we were standing right in front of each other, sometimes we still could not hear one another. So we came up with this brilliant idea of creating cell phones inside. And cell phones, just like cell phones work in real life, the cell phones inside, say if I am asleep, or if my brother and I go out camping or do something else, that if somebody tries to contact me on my cell phone, I may be in an area that has no service, or I might have it turned off and not want to be disturbed. But I will get the message, just like cell phones. So I will, with how cell phones are supposed to work, I will get the message once I wake up or turn my cell phone back on or come back into area of service. So I will get the message later and respond accordingly. So those are my 5 tips on how you can possibly improve communication with your alters. And then also the last little bit that I wanted to include, don't go away just yet, I have a little piece of jewel of information here. And keep in mind, especially if you are a system that hasn't developed any communication yet, we thought that once we were able to develop internal communication with each other, that would help a lot of different things, and it did. It really did. However, there's another side that happened. We could hear each other, but that means that we could also hear the people who were yelling, screaming, or angry, or we quickly realized that it wasn't just about being able to develop the ability to talk with one another. We then had to develop healthy communication with one another. And so I wanted to talk just a little bit about that. Developing healthy communication with each other. This is where we came up with some guidelines with one another, such as we won't call each other names, that we will respect one another. We may not necessarily like each other necessarily, but we are a system. And the best way to put it is how Diva put it years ago. And she basically said, you know what, nobody in our system is going anywhere anytime soon, so we may as well learn how to work together, because we can either face a life of working together as best as we can as a team, or we can, and be as happy as we can be, or we can look at continually working against one another, fighting with one another, calling each other names, working in chaos, and continue to be miserable, or at least we were miserable when it was like that in our system. We were miserable. And so we wanted to, that's the reason why developing internal communication with each other was really important. But what's even more important, you guys, I can't stress this enough. What's even more important is healthy communication with each other, having things in place to at least respect each other enough to know that you have the rest of your lives to figure out what is healthy for you and yours. What does healthy mean to you? What does being a healthy DID system mean to you? Not what does it mean to these mental health professionals, or to your best friend, or to your mom, or to your dad, or to brothers or sisters or relatives. What does it mean to you? And and then find out what that, when you really search for that answer of what operating as a healthy system means to you and yours, I would highly recommend continually working on that process to get there, because the more that you all do your best to work as a team together, the healthier and happier you all will be, and the more at peace, hopefully, you will be with each other. It's a question for you guys. What was your favorite suggestion on how to improve internal communication? And also, what ways would you suggest to help improve internal communication? Is there something that I have not mentioned in this video that has really worked well for you? Please mention it down below. And thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye.